Hello and welcome to San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans.
By the fans.
I'm with Jason. This is Josh. We are the San Diego Sports Junkies, and we're short Justin this week. He's got some unfortunate things that he had to attend to, and he couldn't provide his insight in today's game today's show. So first off, we want to start talking about the Redskins. Well, before I get into that, I want to thank our sponsors. SK Digital Imaging, our buddy Sean K. If you're looking for any of your printing needs, look up Sean K and SKA Digital Imaging or give him a call at 858-408-0732. Our sponsor, sdforlife.net. Do you want to stand out? Do you want to show people how diehard you really are? Then visit our boys at sdforlife.net and get all your bolt-up gear. 30-24 versus the Redskins. We lose in overtime. But first and foremost, we shouldn't even have gone into overtime.
No. You know, I've been listening to a lot of the radio. First of all, San Diego Sports Radio sucks. It just sucks. I hate listening to these guys. I hate it when people call in because, excuse me, but everybody's a fucking expert, and I'm so tired of hearing all these people complain about, well, they should have called this play, they should have called that play. Any play that's called that doesn't gain at least 3 yards on the ground or 10 yards in the air was the wrong play call throughout the game. You know,
right.
Stop second guessing every fucking call. I'm so irritated by it.
I couldn't tell.
When you're first and goal on the half-yard line, you should be able to take every play in the book, throw it on the wall, and throw 4 darts. And any of those, from those 4 plays, you should be able to get it into the end zone. It's not a play calling issue. They didn't execute. It happens, you know. Let's stop saying, oh, they should have run this. Of course they should have run something else, because those didn't work. But, God, it's so lazy just to say, oh, they should have ran, you know. The second they had first and goal, my thought was, let's just run it up the gut 4 times. But any of those other play calls, if they ran it 4 times up the gut and they didn't score, everybody's screaming, why aren't you getting the ball to Gates? Why aren't you putting the ball in Rivers' hands? He's carried you so far. I'm just so damn tired of it.
Well, and what a lot of people are frustrated at, and there was a stat that went around, the Chargers are 2-11 on goal line situations.
Yes.
And that to me speaks volumes, and whether it's play calling or whether it's personnel or whether it's execution, that needs to be fixed. First and foremost, these we can't be in a situation, especially, you know, this weekend's game against Denver. I don't want to jump too far ahead.
Right.
That's do or die now on our season, in my opinion. If we go down to 4-5 in the record after hopefully we don't lose, but if we do, it looks a lot different than if we win this game and we lose to Denver. We're 5-4 instead of 4-5,
right? And
we're looking a lot better moving forward. But now our backs are up against the wall, and our guys are really going to come out and have to play. But to, I guess, elaborate more on what you're talking about, I was extremely frustrated in the play calling, and whether or not, because Rivers has been in a lot of control, they've given him the ability to go up and change plays at the line, and I think that's what happened on the second down play, because they lined up with Matthews and our fullback in the backfield, right. and it looks like he saw the one-on-one matchup with Gates, and you saw him kind of give him a little hand signal, and then they went that way. To me, that looks like he changed the call.
Right.
And the frustrating thing is, as a fan, you're on the 1-yard line. Just about any NFL team should be able to run that ball up the middle and get in the end zone. Yeah. It might not happen on the first play, but I guarantee if you do it 3 plays in a row, there's no reason why your guys shouldn't be able to open up just the small smidgen of a window to get it into the end zone and win that game.
Right. However, you can also say there's no reason why Antonio Gates one-on-one with a cornerback, that shouldn't be an easy touchdown. Now,
but
that's
Rivers overthrew the ball, too.
Rivers didn't make a good throw. That wasn't Gates' fault. It happens. Second-guessing play calling to me is so lazy. These guys spend many more hours than we do right. analyzing what plays to call. Right. They know a lot more than we do. Let's stop second-guessing the play calling. It was an execution issue, bottom line. I remember a few weeks ago we talked about, and one of the problems is gonna be this season is we can't get too high after the wins and we can't get too low after the losses.
Right.
We're going to have an inconsistent team this year. We talked about that before, and I'm as guilty as anybody. When we win the game, I get a little bit too high. When we lose the game, I get a little bit too low.
Right.
We have to understand that this team, the way that they are right now, they're going to be inconsistent. So we need to understand that. We're going to win some that we should lose, and we're going to lose some that we should win. One of the things that bother me, I hate to be a poor sport whine and crybaby, but I thought the referees did a horrible job.
I totally agree.
We still should have won the game. I'm not saying, but that I don't know if I've seen a worse call than that Keenan Allen pass interference call was just atrocious.
The ghost call, the ghost pass interference call.
I was getting ready when they're showing the replay that I'm thinking, oh, it was probably some ticky tack. He didn't even come within a yard of the guy. They did not even make contact, and for them to call that, we would talk in the pre-show, calling that personal foul against Andrew Gatchkar down in the overtime was a stupid, ridiculous call.
Agreed.
We had one that went in our favor. Woodhead fumbled that ball, and they blew the play dead, and they wouldn't let them challenge the fumble.
So elaborate that.
Second to last drive, we're going down. Woodhead gets the ball. He gets hit and he fumbles the ball, and his helmet went flying off.
Oh, right, okay, I know what you're at.
And I remember watching the announcers didn't do a good job of explaining this, but I was reading the lips on the sideline, and he was saying, you can't challenge the fumble. You can only challenge the whether it was a completed pass or not.
Right.
And so
which
the coach said, okay,
was.
which it obviously was, but it was not challengeable because that was one that went in our favor because he had obviously when they showed the replay, it was obvious he had fumbled the ball.
But that was one.
But this is one that really, really bothers me. And this one, we should have won the game anyways. Now, if you ask me, I do not think that Woodhead touched that pylon with the ball.
Right.
However, they called a touchdown.
Right.
And for it to be reversed, it has to be irrefutable.
Yep.
And it was not. And when I'm watching that, I'm thinking, I don't think he touched it, but think isn't enough to overturn a call.
Right. It's not a judgment call. No. It has to be.
You have to be able to see it.
It has to be plain as day.
They should have come back and say the play stands because and then they placed it on the half-yard line, which was bullshit also because
it was almost the 1 yard line.
Yeah, it should have been on the 1 inch line, But I'm not. Obviously we would have wanted that one in, but they should have won the game anyways. But the referees, I thought, were just horrid in that game. Absolutely horrid.
Well, first and foremost. The Keenan Allen penalty that obviously was not. I'm like sitting there and I'm like thinking, son of a, what?
Yeah.
This is the wrong time to be getting, a penalty. He just had a great play, made some positive yardage. We're marching down the field and now we have to take, 2 steps back. It's 1st and 20, running out of time because I think we're down by 10 at that point.
Yeah.
And then I see it and I'm like, he's 5 yards from the guy.
Didn't even touch him.
Didn't
even touch him.
Where do they even see that from any angle?
Maybe he used the force against him or something. I don't know because he didn't touch him.
So I totally agree on that. The Woodhead ball, I totally agree on that as well. When I saw the replay, I'm like, oh, this is going to be turned over. And then when they came back and said, which is very similar to the touchdown call, because it was ruled a catch, but. He obviously fumbled. But
the fact that they had blown it dead, they said it wasn't reviewable.
Right.
Which was lucky on our. It was a bad call, and it lucked out on our.
Right. And then the play in the end zone, I totally agree with you because, generally on TV when you're watching it, they show like every angle possible.
They show every angle.
And they didn't show any angle from this far side where he actually touched or didn't touch the pylon. They only showed from an angle from afar, and I agree with you that there's no evidence that shows that he did not get into the end zone.
Now you ask me like with a gun to my head, I say he probably didn't.
Right.
But probably isn't how this works.
Right. Exactly.
So it was it really bothered me. You brought Keenan Allen up again, and he had one great thing was the fact that pass interference penalty didn't hurt us because we ended up scoring still on that drive. We ended up coming back and scoring. So
and he's the one that scored the touchdown.
Yes.
There was a lot of positive with Keenan Allen. I don't want to keep beating him.
He had the big drop.
He had the big drop, which you if you watch the replay, his eyes are turned upfield. Right. He's already looking for the first guy he's going to juke out of his shorts, but he had a lot of positives as well. I mean, he had a lot of catches, a lot of yards.
He did enough to make up for that drop. Every receiver drops balls. We've seen receivers drop balls all year. The one thing that I really want to praise him for in this game was he kept his cool. When that pass interference penalty was called, he never argued. Right. He never did anything. That's why I thought he must have done something. He trotted back in there, and he kept his game face on. He said...
Kept making plays, because Rivers kept going to him. Rivers went to him like another 3 times, including the touchdown.
So he did plenty to make up for that drop. I think he had a fantastic game, and a drop,
Absolutely. And then the last thing, that Gatchkar play. So, they're marching down the field. It's overtime. It's a tie ball game. They're marching down the field. They won the coin toss. If they get a touchdown, they win. That play took them from, our defense has a chance at holding them to a field goal to 2 plays now they're in the end zone. And, I mean, it was a big play, first of all, because I think it was like a 3rd and 8, if I remember correctly. And then they tacked 15 yards on top of that. So he got the first down, but then you give him 15 more yards, and now they're inside the 10. And from there, it's,
who's to say our defense was not playing that great anyway. So
our secondary is playing horrible.
You never know if, I got to say most likely they would have scored anyways. That certainly didn't cost us the game. It was just another one on top of the many things that just went wrong from the referee's point of, from the referees. They had a bad game.
And I hate to make excuses for not winning the game. There was a lot of things we could have done to win that game. Mm-hmm. But I felt that they kept putting us behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
We were kept trying to overcome, and it seems like we kept continue to be behind the 8 ball. You have that penalty against Keenan Allen. Now it's 1st and 20. The fumble didn't really hurt us at all. The Gatchkar play put them, inside the red zone, which made it easier for them to, score the touchdown. The Woodhead pylon play, that instead of a touchdown and the game over, we're not even talking about overtime.
Exactly.
We're going home, 5-3 and playing the Denver Broncos this week for a chance to go 6-3 and really put our stamp on the season. Instead, they overturn it. We get the ball a bad spot about the 1-yard line. First play, they try to do a draw to Woodhead, which I totally disagree with.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? That's worked in the past. Like I said.
Yeah, but it's worked in the past, but it worked when you have 15, 20, 30 yards in front of you where people can wonder, is he going to pull it back and throw it, or is he going to run it? In that situation, defenses are going to sit on the run.
The plays didn't work. I'm not going to harp too much on the play calling. Obviously, they didn't work. The only other thing that I want to say is, I'm wondering, was Ryan Matthews injured at all? Nobody's said anything, but
I haven't heard anything.
He was rushing. He only had 7 carries, but he had almost 5 yards a carry. He ran 7 times for 34 yards. I know that within the flow of the game, sometimes it's just not a right time to put him in. I get that, but I was amazed that they didn't use him more, especially as hot as he's been lately. And he was running hard on that first drive. He had almost 25 yards in the first quarter. And I'm thinking, Here we go. Here's another 100-yard game. And then for some reason, I don't know if it's because we got too excited, the fact that, everybody said their secondary so bad, we wanted to throw it more. We wanted to, I don't know why. I mean, they have their reasons. They know a lot more about it than I do. It was just a little bit surprising to me.
Well, and from which was odd, from what I picked up, is they were putting 8-9 men in the box consistently, and forcing us to throw the ball, which is surprising because as bad as their secondary is, but they figured if they could take, Matthews out of the game, who's had back-to-back 100-yard games, that is going to increase their chances immensely, which I agree. I mean, that's the same thing for us. If we could stop their running game,
right, which we couldn't,
and that just opened up play action and all the other stuff, and they just tore our secondary up. Cox gets benched at halftime, and I'm glad to see it because you can't continue to let somebody just get beat time after time after time. You have to finally say enough is enough. Go ahead and sit on the bench. You need to regroup. Because, if we continue to do this, so if he did this against RG3, what's going to happen against Peyton Manning?
Right, RG3 is not that good of a passer. He almost threw for 300 yards against our defense. The thing is, and benching Cox, I didn't have a problem with that. He has not had a very good year.
No.
But everybody was sucking, It wasn't just him. I mean, when he went out, you couldn't tell the difference. They were still throwing the ball whenever they wanted.
Pierre Garçon was doing whatever he wanted during that game. There was never anybody around. Not only was he catching the ball, but he was getting yards after the catch on just about everything he got his hands on.
No, it was... he had 172 yards receiving. Pathetic. That's disgusting. That's disgusting.
It was pathetic.
It was bad. That, Not a whole lot of praise for anybody on the defense. It's just, even Weddle seemed to be a little bit off. I think he was back to trying to do a little bit too much because he had really, he started out the season a little bit slow. He'd been playing really good, and I'm a huge Weddle fan. I think he tries to, sometimes there's too much, we have too much lacking on the defense sometimes, and he tries to do too much a little bit.
I think if some way, somehow, because it seems like the Chargers are a light switch. One week they're on, 1 week they're off.
We talked about
if there's some way somehow that they can pull this game off against Denver, I think they have to go out and get somebody for our second day. I think they have to.
Well, it's too late to get somebody for this game.
For this game, that's what I'm saying. So if they go out and somehow pull out a win against Denver, which is very possible at home, they play well, but and it's a divisional matchup, which usually those games are very hard fought, and
tight.
they can go either way. I think they need to entertain a trade. And
too late to trade. You can't trade. They got to pick somebody up.
Nnamdi Asamoah.
Well, we talked about him to be released. Hopefully, they release him. I'd love to have him. I always thought that he was overrated, but I'm right now thinking we just need some warm bodies back there. We need to find a group that will click.
Right.
And, our defense had 2 good games. They played 2 good games, and then it was a combination. We seemed to... I was thinking that we weren't blitzing very much, and then I was reading an article, and we blitzed over half the time. It just wasn't working.
Well, and that's what we've talked about in the past shows, is when we got a running quarterback back there.
Yeah.
Even though we blitz, they have the ability and the athleticism to avoid the blitz and break out and make plays happen with their legs and with their arms. And RG3 was exactly that. I think if you are blitzing, and we can dive into the Denver game now. Yeah, if you blitz like we did against the Redskins, against Peyton Manning, there's going to be a lot more contact. There's going to be a lot more, him shuffling his feet and throwing the ball off, and there's going to be a lot more sacks that are going to come from the
Manning,
blitzing.
Though, is a much, much, much better quarterback than RG3.
He's a much better quarterback, but he's not as athletic with his legs.
Right.
And that's where...
He plays a lot like we've seen a lot of from Phillip Rivers here. I think a lot of times he goes up to the line, and he pretty much knows where the ball's going to go before it's snapped. For some reason, when he was with the Colts, we played pretty well against him, and the key was getting pressure on him. It's always been getting pressure.
Even last year, we played well against him. Granted, we were up 28-0 in the one game, and then they came back and won. And then the second game, I believe that was even close. I think we were even winning that game in Denver. Was it in Denver?
No, I think the first one was in Denver.
So that was the one we were up 28-0, and then they came back. But the other one, I believe, we were even winning, and they came back in the fourth quarter and won, which was, a lot of what we were hoping not to see this year.
Exactly.
But with Peyton Manning, again, I think, one, they've seen him a lot. He's not mobile. I do agree with you. He gets the ball out quickly. He knows where it's going to go. I'm not going to say that we're going to shut him down by any means, but I think we're going to get to him a lot more than we would have got to RG3. because of his lack of athleticism with his legs.
Well, I have my notes for the game against the Broncos is very simple, and it's blitz, blitz, blitz. Our secondary is not covering very good. There's no point in rushing 3 and dropping 8 if people are going to be open anyways.
Right.
I say take our chances, blitz. If he burns us, he burns us. But let's that's our best chance is getting pressure on him and blitzing.
And he's going to get his points. This is going to be a high-scoring game, in my opinion. Our defense has been too sporadic to say that we're gonna, pull an Indy and hold them to, field goals all day long. I just don't see that happening. And their defense they have a good pass rush, but their secondary gives up a lot of yards too.
Yes.
And if you look at the standings and they show the points for and the points against, they've given up more points than the Chargers have.
Yes.
So I mean,
they've also had some games.
They're out shooting everybody.
They've had some big leads and they've given up some garbage points too.
It's garbage points. It's who's got the ball last, and I think in this situation it's going to be who's got the ball last. I see our offense continuing to click. I see their offense continuing to click, and it's a matter of what defense can get that key turnover to flip the tides.
Yeah, I agree. I think I was real happy to see our defense actually score a touchdown last week.
That was a crazy play. The block kick.
Yeah, we blocked 2 kicks. We hadn't blocked kicks in 1,000 years, it seemed like.
We picked this guy up, and the first play that he gets in there, he blocks a kick. I mean, what a better standout on your very first play on your new team, and go in there and you block a kick on the road. It's just great to see.
That's going to be another key also, is the fact if we're going to be blitzing, he's going to be getting the ball out fast, and we need those defensive linemen who aren't going to have time to get to him. Get your hands up and tip those balls in the air, because I'm going to say, I don't know how much time we have left. If the Chargers are going to win this game, I think our defense needs to get 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
Which
is tough because they have. I mean, I think we're -7 in the turnover ratio.
We're not getting the turnovers. We're still not getting the turnovers, even though we did get that pick 6. It was a little bit of a fluky play. We need that. We need to maybe pick them off. Get a legit pick once, and then maybe a couple fluke turnovers, maybe a fumble, maybe a tipped ball,
right?
Something like that. We need to not turn the ball over, and we need to get 3 turnovers. And if we do, I think, and we blitz the hell out of them. I mean, we're not a bad team. The Chargers are not a bad team. They're just, they're just up and down. And we have the team to beat the Broncos. Everybody needs to execute. And if everybody does their job, I think we can win.
So with their head coach possibly out for the season, how do you think that affects the Broncos against the Chargers and down the road? Because, I mean, who's their backup? Who's their backup coach?
Oh, they had Del Rio.
Coach Del Rio.
Yeah.
I don't think he was very successful as a head coach. And they have him as an offensive coordinator, and we've seen...
Defensive coordinator.
He's a defensive coordinator.
Yes.
But still, we've seen, I hate to keep bringing up Norv, but when you have your head coach that has another responsibility, it tends to hurt the team more than help the team, in my opinion. Do we see the same thing this Sunday with him not being able to pay as much attention to the defensive side of the ball because he's got head coaching duties? Will that affect their defensive play calling and the game in general?
I think that's a fantastic point. I think some coaches, it works out for them. It seems like Andy Reid seems to be able to handle that okay. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a fantastic point, the fact that he's moving from defensive coordinator to head coach. It's not that he isn't able to be a head coach. It isn't that he doesn't have the experience. It's not that he can't do it.
Right.
I'm wondering how it is going to affect the flow of the game. I'm wondering if he's going to be calling the defensive plays or if he's going to have his, whoever probably his linebacker coach, upgrade to D coordinator. How all that's going to work, how, his first game being the head coach, I wonder if that's going to have any effect on him at all, because I do think that's a fantastic idea. I love the fact that McCoy brought in an offensive coordinator, even though he's an offensive guy. I really like separating that out. Let the head coach be the head coach, even if he leans offense or defense. You still have to have a strong coordinator,
right?
And so I do think that might have an effect, and I sure hope it does.
Absolutely, I think it will. It's a lot of responsibility to put on a head coach that's got to call one side of the ball, because they. A lot of times head coaches, yeah, they're paying attention to the game, but there's a lot of times they're doing coaching on the sidelines while the game is going on and while their offensive and defensive coordinators are running the action. They might be talking up a player or telling them, certain things that they're expecting of them.
Worrying about a challenge flag or the timeouts, all that stuff the coach has to worry about, you know? And if he's having to also call defensive plays and he's having to make adjustments and all that stuff, you're taking away from other things he could be doing. So
there's no way he can focus on the defense 100% like he would normally do.
Right.
And I think that will affect it. With that said, we got 4 minutes left here.
Well, I want a prediction from you. I just come up with this. Is Jammer active this game?
That's a great question.
He's only been active 2 games this year, but do they activate him this game?
I think they activate him, and I think they would activate him just for the sheer fact that he knows the offense so well. He's practiced against them for years and years and years. He's got the knowledge. He knows a lot of what Phillip Rivers brings to the table.
Right.
I think they activate him. I hope that we get a chance to burn him like he got burnt so many times the last couple of years here. But I definitely think they activate him.
I think you're right. As funny as that question I just asked you, I just now thought of it. It just popped into my head. I think they activate him too. I'd like to see him. I always, we've talked about before. I've always got a soft spot in my heart for Jammer. I want him to get burnt every single play because he's not a Charger right now. Once he retires, I'll be a huge fan of his again. Right now, he's a Bronco. But I do want to see them activate him, and I do think they will. I do.
So what's your prediction on this game? I know it's a difficult one because, your heart wants to go for the Chargers. Do you see him pulling it off, or do you see Denver ultimately showing their prowess?
Well, I honestly, when I look at the schedule, I think the Chargers are good enough to beat every single team on that schedule. I really, truly believe that. Mm-hmm. I don't think they will, just because they're a little inconsistent and they don't always go your way. I'm picking the Chargers to win this game. I'm picking them to win 36-33.
Wow. I'm going to pick Denver, and the reason why I'm going to pick Denver is because I picked the Cowboys, I picked the Eagles, and the Chargers both won those games.
Keep it going, baby.
So I'm going to go with Denver, and I agree with you. I think it's the last person to have the ball wins. I'm going more like 34-28. But I'm going to pick Denver, and I hope it totally goes against me. And I know a lot of you are sitting there listening right now and saying this guy's a jack-off. But, to each his own. Maybe
they were saying that before.
Yeah, some people wear the same socks, their lucky socks. I'm going to go with my lucky prediction, and I'm going to say that the Chargers lose this one, and I hope they prove me wrong once again.
I sure hope they do, too.
So, this is the San Diego Sports Junkies, a show for fans.
By the fans.
By the fans. And Jason's going to run down our iTunes account. We want you guys to rate us on iTunes.
Yeah, definitely. Go check us out on iTunes and give us a rating. You can listen to us live on Spreaker. Download the Spreaker. That's Spreaker app. You can listen to us live, or you can listen to it, and if listen to us later. If you're listening to us live, of course, it's at 7 o'clock every Wednesday. You can chat along with us, like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. I'm not going to give all the names. You can search and find us. Of course, check out our website, www.sandiegosportsjunkies.com. Lots of content up there. And if you have something that you want to say, submit it to us. And we'd be happy to check it out and maybe put it up there for you.
We appreciate you guys once again for listening into the show. We will be back shortly here with our Bolt Zone. And please keep the questions coming. This is a show for fans.
By the fans.
Thanks, guys. We are out.